Welcome back to another episode of Bigger Than Goals. We're here today with a good friend of mine. He's a financial advisor, my man, Chance Cuffe.
When I went to college, in my mind's eye, I was going to be an attorney. I had this big loan on my back that I knew I had to pay back. So I looked around and said, okay, what career is going to pay me the most money the fastest? And it was like, oh, you should go into finance. I believe that everybody can use a financial advisor. I lost, I want to say 4 people that I knew from COVID. They might have had life insurance, but didn't have the right life insurance. They didn't have significant assets to pass on to their family. And I was like, whoa, this is a problem. Mm-hmm. Because I don't care if you make $100,000 or $100 million. If you don't have your affairs in order, you're leaving the next generation out to dry.
Welcome back to another episode of Bigger Than Goals. We're here today with a good friend of mine. Someone's given us a lot of information. He's a financial advisor, my man, Chance Cuffe. I said it right, Chance Cuffe.
Yep, you said it right. Chance Cuffe.
What's up, man? How you doing, bro?
I can't complain, brother. I'm here, man. I'm above the earth, not below it. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, listen, bro. They don't listen when you complain anyway.
Exactly.
I'm glad we finally got a chance to make this happen. Mm-hmm. I know you off the camera.
Yeah.
Through your son, who's an amazing talent. But I want to get to know more about you. I think your story, I want the world to know more about you because I think your story is very unique. You're a financial advisor, and you're from New York, right?
I am from Brooklyn, New York. Shout out to everybody from Brooklyn.
My man. What part of Brooklyn?
I grew up in the Bushwick, Bed-Stuy section of Brooklyn. So initially was born in Flatbush, and my family moved to Bushwick when I was like 3 or 4.
So this ain't the new Brooklyn?
No, I'm from old Brooklyn, like East New York, like still where I live at, still a little wild. Still right. Wild, yeah.
So you're now in LA, right? Yeah. So tell me about your schooling though. Like I know, it's kind of, I come from that inner city world as well. Yeah. And you got so many challenges getting through the inner city crap that goes on, right?
Yeah.
And for you to come and get your education and all that, what school did you go to?
Yeah, I'll tell you about it. Yeah, so I actually grew up in public school. I went to the local public school in my neighborhood, PS 45, junior high school. I think when I went to high school, like Martin Luther King is when I began to actually leave Brooklyn and go to school in the city.
Yeah.
And Martin Luther King was a bad school, and I went.
Yeah, I went to Martin Luther King in Philly.
So you already know.
Yeah.
So Martin Luther King 9 times out of 10 is not a good school.
That's the terrible part, man.
It's unfortunate. Yeah. They took a great man's name, but the school is not. So, when I went there, the school wasn't a great school. It probably still isn't a great school, to be honest with you, in terms of academics. But for me, it was a good experience. It was an okay experience because I was exposed to a lot more than just Brooklyn. Right. I got to see kids from Queens, kids from Staten Island, kids from Harlem, kids from the Bronx. And I began to make a lot more relationships in the city as a whole. I ended up going to a college in Connecticut called Wesleyan University. Mm. And at Wesleyan, I struggled. My freshman year was terrible. Coming from public school, you probably know this as well. Yeah. You don't know how to read and write properly. You don't know how to study.
Yeah, very so.
So my first year was just like, adjusting to white people, right? That's the other thing, too. Throughout my life, I didn't really deal with white folks at all. When I went to high school, I would say about half of my teachers were black or Latino.
Right.
So I didn't really have to get immersed into culture of the general market. I call them the general market, but the majority, right?
Right.
And so that first year, it was like jumping into a pool of sharks and trying to figure out how to survive.
And this was right out of King.
Right out of King.
And you was at another high school, right?
No, I went to King was my high school.
Right.
I graduated and went to Wesleyan was my college.
Wesleyan was your college, okay.
Yeah, so, I was fortunate enough to, again, go to college. I knew how to hustle, right, from being in the streets. My dad, he's a hustler. He sold drugs all my life, pretty much, literally. And so you learn about the streets relatively quickly. And you grew up in the 80s and 90s, you're going to learn how to hustle and how to grind.
Absolutely.
So when I went to Wesleyan, now it was kind of like, all right, I got to figure this out. Because I'm paying for it and I can't go back home and not have
you was paying out of your pocket? No financial aid? No?
I got some financial aid for sure. I got some financial aid, but Wesleyan was Division III, so they didn't offer
Division III. Yeah, Division III definitely don't do that.
So they didn't offer athletic scholarships. So when I got there, it was like, all right, I got to figure this out. I got a couple girls that was cool with me. They started helping me out. and I began to kind of figure out how to manage. And I ended up doing well at Wesleyan, and I ended up getting a job working on Wall Street. So that's kind of how I got.
What were you doing on Wall Street?
I was doing investment banking. I was an analyst in an investment banking firm. I worked at a couple of different ones, but I began my career at Prudential. They had an investment bank at the time called Prudential Base. I then moved from Prudential to Payne Weber, which became UBS.
Gotcha. This route ain't the most attractive in the inner city, right? Like you seeing your brother play basketball. You obviously you see the stuff that goes on in the inner cities of the world. But you chose a different route. Where did that come from? Did one of your parents, were they in finance?
No.
What made you go that route?
I tell you, I was broke. I'm gonna be honest with you. So when I went to college, in my mind's eye, I was gonna be an attorney, and I was trying to gear my curriculum to be an attorney and go to law school. And I took the law school exam when I was in college, and I didn't do well on it the first time I took it. I was like, man, it sucks. And I had this big loan on my back that I knew I had to pay back. So I looked around and said, okay, what career is going to pay me the most money the fastest?
Right.
And it was like, oh, you should go into finance, go into investment banking. So for me, it was like, okay, I need to understand and learn about it. So I began kind of just doing my necessary due diligence.
Does that pay quickly?
It doesn't pay, like, it pays a lot of money. Like, from a career standpoint, back in those days, Wall Street paid better than the majority of careers, right? You got to remember, right, this is before the internet and tech was really, like, huge.
Right, yeah, true.
Right, true. So outside of, like, being a ball player or a rapper, and you had to, like, get into an industry that paid you good money early, that was the space. Like, you was on Wall Street, you was doing sales or trading, you was doing investment banking, something in asset management, something along those lines, and it paid you a really good salary at the gate. And that's what I chose. So, I had a couple
smart decision.
Yeah, and I had an internship, that turned into a job essentially after school.
Nice. So that internship turned into a job. You still in New York at that point, right?
Yeah.
So how long were you in New York before you moved to LA?
So the way my career played itself out was I was in New York for 4 years working. And the path for most people that do investment banking is like after 3 or 4 years, you generally, it's like an up or out culture. So either you stay within the company or you move on to like private equity, venture capital, doing some other stuff, or you go to grad school, whether you're going back to law school or business school. I chose to go to business school. I felt like I didn't want to be a lawyer after kind of seeing what lawyers do on a regular basis.
Right.
And I ended up, I was fortunate again. I got into Harvard Business School. And that's kind of where my career kind of took a different path. So
nice.
I went to Harvard Business School. I met my wife, who's from LA, and I'll get back to how I got to LA. We ended up getting married, and when I got out of school, the market crashed. So like there was this big real estate bubble that burst.
What year was that?
2008.
Yeah, 2008 was a bad year.
So
I was a part of that.
Yeah, so I couldn't go back to Wall Street. Well, I could, but my offer had got rescinded because of all the jobs that was being removed. So I had to figure out what to do. So I ended up taking a job at Procter & Gamble in brand management.
Okay.
So my family, my wife and I, we moved to Ohio.
Oh, what part?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Ooh, that's a big change from Brooklyn, though.
Oh, for sure. But shout out to everybody in Ohio, man. Some of the best people that I've met in the world come from the Midwest.
Absolutely.
And, just real wholesome people. I think.
Yep. Absolutely.
What I would say about my experience, I was in Ohio for about 5 or 6 years, and Cincinnati's a different place.
Yeah.
Like, to be clear, it's a different place. And for those people who are there from there, who not originally from Cincinnati, you guys know, it's a different place, right?
Yeah, I've never been, but.
Yeah, so, and I worked there. I worked at P&G, Procter & Gamble, for about 6 years on different brands and marketing. And I ended up leaving and coming back to New York. My wife wanted to get back to L.A., and she was begging me to go back to L.A. She hated New York. She just couldn't take the cold weather. I think the East Coast cold weather for her.
Yeah, I'm with your wife on that one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
because the cold weather keeps me away from Philly.
Yeah, so and we had a tough time because at that particular moment in time, the business that we were doing wasn't doing as well as we hoped, and so she ended up getting an opportunity in L.A. And that's when I kind of had hit a crossroads in my life. It was like, all right, do I thug it out what I'm doing right here, or do I move to the West Coast? and it was kind of like, all right, well, this might be the better opportunity. Let me just kind of go here.
Gotcha.
So I
so
came to LA in 2018.
So your business in Ohio didn't go as planned, right?
Well, the wine business that we were in the wine and spirits business, and the business started off okay. I think we were probably just in a bad sector, and we didn't have the capital to really grow the business as much as we wanted to. So that didn't go as well,
Right.
As we'd have liked. And then I also had a regular corporate job. But so it was hard to balance that. Being a new father, I had, 2 kids, 2 sons that I was trying to raise. You got 2 working parents, and then it affects your career too, right? Because now you got to take away from one to do the other.
Right. Yeah, we was just talking. I was talking to some friends at the gym about that. Like, once you have kids, your life is about the kids, and something that was going to take a loss. We was in the gym talking, so they was like, if you a person who in the gym, you're not going to be in the gym anymore.
Right, exactly. Right. And that was me, right? I was in the gym. I was play basketball regularly, and once you have kids, and you and your wife, and this is a relationship thing, but you have to figure out if you have a significant other, a partner that you kind of raise these kids. It's like, okay, we have to put food on the table, and somebody has to sacrifice in some respects, right? Mm-hmm. Like most black people in America, we don't come from silver spoons, right? So we're not. So you have to work, and then someone may have to like work too, but not work as a high demanding job as somebody else,
right?
Depending on how ambitious your family structure is, right? So what you see now is the dynamic that a lot of people, white and black and Hispanic and Asian, they wait till they're older to have kids. Mm. And I was a big believer, and I never wanted to have my kids too old.
Right.
Because I always wanted to be able to like play with them, compete with them, and be able to have energy to kind of manage them.
Right. So what age were you when you first had your first?
I had my first son, I probably was like 25.
25? Okay.
25, I had Amari at 27. So yeah.
You was in the mix.
Yeah, I was.
I'm be an old dad, brother. So now your wife convinced you to come to LA. It's 2018. Where is the now? Did you accept a job offer out here?
No. So I came into LA. I didn't have no work, no job, no nothing. Mm. I still was kind of trying to consult here and there, but I was broke. My wife pretty much was holding the family down, and I went through like a phase of depression. Yeah. I say the walk-in depression.
What is it? Walk-in depression?
Walk-in depression. Like, you basically functional, but you're not functioning at your optimal best. Right. Mm-hmm. And I was in that state because I was depressed. I was like, well, I can't get a job. I don't have a network out here. And I was trying to work my network, but nothing was like clicking for me.
Right.
And I wasn't getting the opportunities that I thought I deserved.
Quick question. How do you know if you're in a walk-in depression?
You don't know. You don't know. You don't know. You just know that you're not... I didn't know I was depressed.
Right.
Right. But when I went to therapy, the therapist kind of diagnosed me. It was like, this is what's happening. Based on where you are, based on who you are, where you want to be, and this is kind of the actions that you're taking. This is kind of what's happening right now.
Gotcha.
And you could be depressed and still function like a regular human being. You could go work, but you're not really thinking mentally at your best. You're not at your peak performance.
Gotcha.
And I think, like you said about working out, exercising, you're not doing that kind of stuff. The stuff that you would normally do when you're operating at your best, you're not doing anymore. So you're still functioning because you got to function to survive. Okay. But you're not.
You don't have like the mood you don't have the energy to do stuff.
The
to
mindset,
do stuff you love. Got it.
100%.
Got it.
Yeah. Did you ever watch Issa Rae's show on HBO that she had? I forgot what it was called again.
It was on HBO?
Issa Rae, you know what Issa Rae is?
Yeah. Insecure?
Insecure.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And you remember the first season, she was dating the dude, the black guy, the tall guy.
Yeah.
And he kind of wasn't leaving the house. He was just on the game, playing video games. He wasn't like getting it together.
Right.
And eventually he had like a crossroads where him and her broke up, and all of a sudden he kind of like snapped out of it.
Yeah, I blame her. No, I'm joking.
but again, right? He was depressed.
Yeah.
He was in a similar situation, right? That was what was happening to me, and I had to like figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to that type of stuff, I think I've been there a few times, especially when things ain't going your way and you're trying to figure out your dollar.
Exactly.
And when the next one going to come from.
And how you going to stretch it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think your pressure is, I wouldn't compare my pressure to yours because you have a family. So you have all these variables that's factor into your daily life. how are you handling it? You know, like your kids are growing, they need stuff. I'm sure your wife wants stuff, and she's, you know, she probably, I don't know, maybe she got tough skin, but a lot of women, when they're in that position, you know, they start to get stressed out themselves.
No, for sure. And I think we went through that phase of like fighting. We almost, you know, not physically fighting, but arguing all the time. And you know, we kind of have to have like a come to Jesus. We had to go to therapy and figure it out because, you know, I felt at the time like she wasn't really helping me get out of that space. She wasn't being, I think, I helpmate, as you would call it. And I had to like go to a space of like, all right, I need to like fast. I need to like get my mind clear. So what happened was, I think it was the summertime. She took my kids to New York to visit my mom, and I was just in the house by myself, and for like 2 weeks, and I was just kind of we had an apartment, and I would just get out early in the morning. And I started to just go jogging. I was like, I'm just gonna go jogging, and I was out of shape, still out of shape, but wasn't as bad as I was then, and I jogged to the Culver City steps, and I started doing the steps, and I probably went up and down the steps until I just couldn't go anymore, and I walked home, and I did like 500 push-ups, and the next day I did it again. Next day I did it again. So, but I think what happened was mentally, I was like, oh, okay. I started to feel better. Like physically, I started to feel better. I started to look better. And then I was like, all right, Kari, let me get back on my grind. And I started to kind of just call everybody that I know. If I didn't call you the first time, I'm calling you again. Email. I'm on LinkedIn every day. I'm looking at my Harvard networks every day, looking at my resume. I'm talking to people. And eventually, you know, something broke for me. I got a job. It wasn't the best paying job, but it was something. That then led to something else, right? And all of a sudden, I'm back flowing again, right? And once I started to make a little bit of money in my pocket again, I was like, oh, okay, I'm going.
And did this happen all within that 2 week span, or you just taking a break to yourself?
The 2 week span kind of got me mentally like focused. So when they came back, I just was in a space of mind like, all right, I got to be locked in for these particular reasons. Whatever happened with my relationship, I know that I got to be able to take care of my kids, take care of myself. I don't know what that's going to look like. It may look a lot different than what I had in my mind. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself together. Gotcha. And I started to just focus. And that meant, hey, I may have to shift directions on what I want to do long term to do something different short term to get back. And, you know, and once I made peace with that, I was back up and going.
Gotcha. That's
and then, you know, and I told my wife the same thing. I was like, listen, this is what I'm going to go do. This is the plan that I have. It's either you're going to buy in or you're not.
Right.
But the hope is that you buy in and we can kind of get through this particular tough path, this rough path. And that's exactly what happened. And then literally, as things were rolling, I ended up getting a better opportunity. And next thing I know, things is flowing again, right? So, and that's pretty much how you know, I ended up doing the financial advisory stuff, getting back into finance in a different way, same space but different way, and beginning to building relationships, building clientele, building my book of business.
Gotcha. So one of the things I want to know, and this is important because we all go through ruts, especially us as men. We go through tough ruts where we just don't talk. We feel like we can't talk. In that 2 week span, would you credit just the break itself, taking a step back, getting your mind right, or maybe the exercising, getting your mind right? Because I feel, you know, as I recollect on the times I went through it, working out got me going. Like, you know, it's a slow grind, but it's a good grind, you know. And once you start seeing the change in your body, and then you start to remember who you are and why and how you got to where you were at that point.
And I think it was a mixture of both. I would say that beginning to exercise and kind of see the difference, you begin to remember, this is who I am. I am that guy, and you know, this is what I'm capable of.
Right.
Right. Because the thing about exercise is it's literally a matter of discipline, but you can feel when you work hard, right? It's almost like as a man, when you feel yourself accomplish something, going to the weight room, lifting something, pushing something, pulling something, jogging and sweating, when you finish something, your body feels exhausted, but you feel mentally like I've accomplished something.
Right.
And I think having that routine of doing it every day,
Yeah.
every day, and then also not having the other outsized factors that normally affect you, blocking it off so you could actually accomplish something, you feel a little bit different, and then you begin to remember, okay, this is who I am. This is what I'm capable of.
Absolutely.
And now my mind is thinking like, okay, if I can do this for 2 hours early in the morning, let me do these next things. And then now I was like, okay, how do I compartmentalize my day? Am I disciplining myself? And then you begin to build your habits that you may have had in the past that your body probably remembers, your mind remembers, but you just haven't been doing because life gets involved and life gets in the way.
Absolutely. So now you're in it. So you went through that and you found your way as a financial advisor. Are you independent? You work with a group?
No, I work with a boutique firm called Lennox Advisors.
And you manage what money for like big
Everybody.
Everybody.
I believe that everybody can use a financial advisor. So my personal philosophy is this, and this is when I came to the realization. During COVID, I lost, I want to say, 4 people that I knew from COVID, and it was a theme. They didn't have the right. They might have had life insurance, but didn't have the right life insurance. It was lapsed. They didn't have significant assets to pass on to their family. And I was like, whoa, this is a problem. Because I don't care if you make $100,000 or $100 million. If you don't have your affairs in order when it comes to your finances, and it could be simple as, I just have the basic stuff. I have term life. I have a 401k, retirement, that I can literally pass on to my kids. If you don't have the basics, you're leaving the next generation out to dry, right?
Right.
And I came to that realization. So with that in mind, I try to approach it like, I talk to everybody. I believe everybody can have the right level of benefits, and I believe in customer service. And I especially believe in talking to people of color because we under index in having our finances in order.
Right.
And a lot of us are living check to check. So at minimum, if you can go out and go to the club and, bust $100 or a couple $100 up on the weekend, you can afford.
They spend more than that, brother. They spend more than a couple $100.
Yeah. If you can afford to go out to lunch every day and eat, buy a big lunch, then you can afford to have the right quality of insurance, the right level of insurance, and you can afford to save a little bit. So when you retire, your kids don't got to take care of you.
Yeah.
You can afford to take care of yourself.
That's good. I mean, so what do you think? So because when people hear financial advisor, I feel like sometimes people think you need a lot of money to have a financial advisor.
You don't.
At what point could you get a financial advisor? How much do you make a year? Is it a minimum? Is it not a minimum?
No. So different financial advisors do different things, right? So I think, and you also have the level and quality, right? So I think you can get a financial advisor basics if you wanted to get an insurance. Let's say you want to get life insurance, right? So everybody in here, I think you could have kids or not have kids, you should get life insurance. And you might say, Kareem, I want to get life insurance. Can you give me some advice? I'm like your financial advisor at that point, right? I'm helping you figure out what policy best fits your current economic standing, right? Now, if you wanted to have me help you with a lot of stuff, you could say I could hire you as a contract, and I could be a personal financial advisor for you, your significant other, and I can do a bunch of different things. But from the time you ask for significant advice, whether I'm on contract or not, once I begin helping you, I'm technically your financial advisor.
You deal with people with a lot of money, and
but not you could be poor, you could be regular. Like, you don't have to have a lot of money to go with a financial advisor. You can have a regular job. You can work for UPS, FedEx, Amazon. You could be a doctor, a lawyer. You don't have to have a lot of money. That's a misnomer.
Right.
People believe that you have to have a lot of money to have a financial advisor. You do not.
No, I'm saying what I was going to say was when you have because we're in a world now where everyone's telling you to invest in this, invest in that. I want to talk about what are some bad investments? Like, you see, because I'm saying you deal with people with a lot of money, and I'm pretty sure you see people make some bad investments. That's probably like super cliche, but the money goes away, and they're not telling the people like, hey, I lost a lot of money in this investment. What are some investments you think the common or the upper echelon of people need to stay away from?
Okay, that's a good
from your experience.
So what I would say is that I think the term bad investment, I think is really about risk tolerance, right? So what risk can you bear? I think if you don't have a lot of money, then you shouldn't be investing in certain risky investments, right? So it will be a bad investment for you if you don't have a lot of money to invest in crypto, because crypto is very risky,
Right.
right? So it's not necessarily a bad investment. Now, if you're very wealthy and you put some money into crypto, it might be a good investment because your risk tolerance is a lot higher. You can afford to see it fluctuate a little bit.
Gotcha.
So I think the mindset of bad or good is I don't really use those terms when it comes to investing and putting money away.
Right.
It's more about how risk averse you are, what's your risk tolerance, and how much risk can you afford to bear.
Right.
Right? Because any type of investment that you make has some level of risk attached to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's almost like every shot that you take on a basketball court has some percentage of I can make it or I'm going to miss it, right? If you're close to the rim, you have a higher percentage opportunity to make the basket. But if you're further away from the rim and you don't have as much experience shooting the ball, it becomes a riskier shot.
Right.
It's a similar situation with investing. If you are not educated in certain investments, you don't have a lot of money, you shouldn't be investing in crypto.
Yeah.
That's not something that you should be even thinking about.
Right.
You need the basics first before you can get there.
No.
So does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. Because I know this world is everybody's telling you to invest, and people are investing and they're losing a lot of money.
Yeah, and that's investing in what? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So is there any now? Let's say I don't have a lot of money. Living, my life 9 to 5. I might got some money saved up, and there's not a lot of money. Where would you say what areas they should look to invest? Like what's things that obviously no investment is safe.
Yep.
But something that you can say, you know what? From my experience, I've seen people make some money in this realm.
So what I would say is right now, the areas that I personally like, I think you have certain blue chip companies that's going to do well no matter what. Companies like Amazon, Apple.
So you would say stocks, pretty much.
I think in certain equity businesses, yeah, because they just fundamentally, they have good businesses, right? I think Amazon is a fundamentally good business. I think Costco is a fundamentally good business. I think Apple is a fundamentally good business. Literally, they can make a new phone and people go out and buy it, right? Like they upgrade the phone, people go out and buy it. Every year, right? They make a new computer, folks go out and buy it.
Right.
Same thing with Amazon. Amazon, people are buying on Amazon left and right now to the point where it's so commonplace. So those are fundamentally good businesses. So if you're going to invest in equity and you want to see some level of growth, those are the types of businesses that I like. I think healthcare is a space that I also believe is going to always be around.
Yeah.
People are getting, the baby boomers getting older, dying off, and healthcare is going to always be huge.
Any companies? Well, we want the facts,
want companies,
man.
we
want it in. I want to give them all the information for them to do their research.
Again, right, as an advisor, I can give you advice, but I don't want to make a recommendation based on that.
No recommendations here.
Yeah,
you gotta do your own research. We're just giving you some ideas.
I like to invest in certain types. If you don't have a lot of time to research companies, I like to invest in asset classes like an ETF or a mutual fund that follows a particular sector.
That's the route I take.
Yeah. So now, if you're investing in a sector, you're investing in I like certain sectors. So I like healthcare as a sector. I like emerging markets as a sector. I like technology as a sector, right? And I like to pick, rather than me do my own stock picking, I pick an ETF or exchange traded fund or a mutual fund that I know somebody who gets paid a lot of money to actually pick their stocks and to buy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I choose to. So I wouldn't recommend a particular company here and there. So.
Yeah, I get.
Now, what I would say though is, real estate always is pretty good. Especially if you can afford to get real estate, right? And you can afford to manage the property and getting rental income. I think real estate in certain markets are huge, like in places like Philly, New York, LA, DC area, where you have high density populations. People are going to always want looking to rent. If you can afford to buy property and rent that out, that's always a good look. Yeah. So that's another asset class that I tend to focus. And then I have some other asset classes that I would recommend for people who are more higher income and have higher risk tolerance as well.
Now, some people are impatient because I have stocks, I have investments out there, and it takes time to grow. What do you say to the people who say stocks take too long? Is it a get rich quick thing out there that we missing that you've seen so far that we don't know about?
Listen, man, I don't know any get rich thing. I know some folks who made some money in crypto, but they were lucky. They didn't have a strategy. They kind of just was in the space and they were playing along in the space and they've made some good money, but they technically don't have a rhyme or reason or why they made money. They just kind of in the space. I think some of it is luck. So I don't believe that there's a place or an area where you can kind of go and make a lot of money fast.
Right.
Like, I don't think the world is not designed like that. This is not, right? I wish it was, believe you or me.
Yeah. Because I feel like some people think that I've heard so many people think it's a quicker way of getting money, but I've always said, just first for me, I like to do what I love. I like to do what I love, and I try to make money in that because it's a long game. Everything is a long game. It's going to take time to see any real significant money, and you want to be able to go through the ups and downs. Like, when you're telling your story, every turn you was going into something that was attached to finance, something you want to do and love to do, right?
Well, let me say this, right? If you look at the stats, I'm a big believer in data. So most millionaires in America are over the age of 50. Most billionaires, when they get their billion, they're over the age of 56 to 60 years old. So if you are going to become a millionaire, and 95% of millionaires don't become a millionaire until their late 40s, right? Then it's a completely a long game, right? We only look at what we see in front of us is like the stars, right? We see the entertainers, the ball players, but they represent literally 0.01% of the population. It's 330. It's 330 million Americans. It's 332 NBA players.
Yeah.
To give you some perspective, right? And not all those NBA players are multi-millionaires. So just put that in perspective. 332 versus 330 million. That's not even a percent.
Absolutely.
That's like a 0.5% or even less than that, right?
Right.
And you can do the same thing with football. You can do the same thing with all sports. So my whole point is that the amount of people that are rich in this world young is very, very rare. Very, very rare.
Okay. And I get that. And I know a lot of people want that millionaire lifestyle. And so when they get their first bag, they mess it up.
They blow it.
What's some of the common things you've seen people mess up their money on?
I'll tell you. So one is not having an advisor that they trust, getting the wrong advisor, somebody who's end up stealing money from them. 2, getting married too early, then getting divorced and losing half their money.
Ooh.
So, and then not being able to not spending wisely. So what I see from my clients and people that I advise, those are the 4 main things that people lose money on. You got married in your 20s, early 20s, and let's say usually this happens particularly to athletes. They have one of the highest divorce rates in the country. 60% of athletes get divorced within 5 years of retiring.
Shit.
60%. The national average is 50%. So they're literally getting, their average is 60%. So it's actually even more than 60, right?
Right.
But they could say 60. If you think about it right now, you can name the majority of athletes right now. I'll tell you who's divorced from who's not once they retire. Kevin Garnett, divorced. Paul Pierce, divorced. Iman Shumpert is going through a divorce right now. He's retired. Carmelo, divorced. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. Dwayne Wade was divorced. This is his second marriage.
They take a big chunk of that.
9 times out of 10, when people get married, especially young folks that get married, they don't get the prenups, right? So what happens is you get married, you go through your career, whether you're a banker, lawyer, whatever, you build a level of significant amount of wealth, and then 10 years down the road, you go, okay, I'm getting divorced. And your wife or whomever, your significant other, man or woman for that matter, Mary J. Blige got married, and her significant other took a lot of money from her as well. They get divorced, they lose a lot of money. So that can hurt your net worth significantly. And then you have other situations where you just spend a lot of money on silliness. Right now,
Talk about the silly stuff, please. Talk about the silly stuff.
Like Joe Smith right now, he's going through something with his significant other right now.
Right.
And I was watching him talk about how he had a car in every city that he played basketball in. He had a car that he bought all cash.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
So that's silly stuff, right? Like, do you really need to have 10 cars?
Yeah.
Do you really need to have 2 cars?
Right.
Do you really need to have a gold chain on your neck that's worth $100,000?
No.
I mean, you earned it, but do you really need to have that, right? So that's like just spending on silly stuff. Like, do I need to have a house that I paid in all cash?
Yeah.
Why are you buying a house and spending all cash? If you're I don't care how paid you are. Why are you buying it all cash? Right? So just how you spend buying things, giving away a lot of your money. So what happens a lot of times too is like as people of color, we have I forget what the terminology is called.
Survival remorse.
Survivor's remorse, right? So now what happens is we made it, right? You're the most successful person in your family.
Yeah, I see that a lot.
It's like
I do it a lot too.
I mean, me too, right? A friend of mine, a close friend of mine was like, yo, man, I need to borrow some money. I'm screwed up right now. I'm messed up. I don't really have it, but all right, how much you need?
Right.
Give it back to me by when? Now, I got a 50% chance of getting that money back.
So I never get my money back. I don't ask for it back. I just give it.
But you know what I'm saying? So I know I got a low percentage of getting that money back. 50% is half and half. But the point is, it's like when you that person or you the person in your family that becomes that, they look to you, right? And we have that situation. And what you see happen is people give a lot of money away. So, and it's a combination of all those different things, right? Of giving your family money for different reasons. Next thing you know, you look up and you broke. And they don't have the money to give back to you. So now you like, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I know. Man, listen, tell me. You preaching to the choir right now, brother. I've been there plenty of times. I appreciate you coming on the show, man. I think everything you said was actually helpful, man. I think we all go through them ruts where we go through that walking depression where we don't know how to get through it. But, you know, with some exercise and taking a step back, looking at the full picture, getting a better view, I think helps gets us through it.
Yeah.
And the financial advice was great. You know, just talking about different ways to invest.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah,
what I would say is the network that can support you when you go through bad times. Because we're all human, and inevitably we're going to hit certain times, and we all need some different people to kind of bounce ideas off, to give us encouragement to push through. And I think that was the other thing that affected me is when I came to LA, I didn't have a network of friends to be like, yo, this is what I'm going through. This is who I trust, for them to kind of help build me up as well, right? So you need. I'm not saying men, we don't have a bunch of friends, but you need some men around you that's wiser, that's older, that's kind of gone through some stuff to be like, yo, you're going to get through this.
Appreciate your time. Appreciate your wisdom. Sure. I know I'm going to see you again because your son is always playing basketball and I'm always coaching. So
yeah, so you definitely gonna run into me again for
Absolutely.
sure. And if you ever want to have a different topic to discuss, I've been married now for 18 years. We could talk about that. Definitely got a lot of opinions on male-female relationships, particularly in our community. You know, as someone who I know, I'm probably one of the few people who've been married as long as I've been married.
Right.
18 years. Most folks don't get married as young as I got married and stayed
18
married.
years.
And stayed as married. So, you know, it's work, but I could give some feedback on that as well. So, you know, we can definitely chop it up on that.
All right, say less, man. I appreciate you,
man.
my guy.
For sure.
My guy, appreciate you. And that's another episode of Bigger Than Goals. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and comment. Or is it the other way around? Is it comment, like? No, I'm messing with him. Make sure y'all like, subscribe, share, and comment. And we'll see you again next week.